Greece is under ferocious pressure from the European Union and the IMF to agree to the terms of the second bailout package. And when the former Greek Prime Minister, George Papandreou, toyed with the idea of giving the Greek people a say, he was told loud and clear by Brussels, choose the euro or leave the Eurozone. Let's get some opinion from Mr. Janis Emmanouilidis. He's the expert from the European Policy Centre. He's an economist, he's German and he's Greek. And recently he wrote a paper on the idea that exiting the Eurozone is no longer taboo. So, thank you very much for joining me here for a coffee today. And let's kick off with that first topic, that whole idea of exiting the Eurozone. I mean, we saw this week that the new Greek government, led by Lucas Papadimos, it got the vote of confidence that it needed. Do you think this will be enough?
Obviously, that's not enough. It's a start. What they now have to concentrate is providing the conditions for the sixth tranche to be paid to Greece, so in order for Greece not to have a hard default. But afterwards, a lot of work is still up there to, especially to translate into action what had been decided on 26th and 27th of October. There are a lot of things to do. The time of the government will be in place. We do not know how long it will be. Is rather short. So they have a lot to do, which are going to influence the country's future in a massive way.
Well, meanwhile, they're waiting for this money. What are the main effects on the Greek people at the moment, and on Greece and on the government? I mean, we believe that they're waiting to pay pensions, civil servants. Is that the case?
That would be the case if they don't get the sixth tranche. But the situation for ordinary Greeks has worsened over the last 20 to 22 months, month by month. And it's even getting worse. And people are in collective despair. There's also a kind of collective anger about the situation, both towards the inside but also towards the outside. There's an increasing nihilism of people saying we will not get out of this anyway, whatever we do. And there's not the feeling that there's the end of the light of the tunnel, and one doesn't even know how long that tunnel is. But it's very dark. Okay,
so you're German and you're Greek. What stance are you taking in this whole debate?
I'm not thinking in terms of German or Greek. I think one needs to think in terms of how to solve the crisis. And this crisis, and it has shown that to us, is not a Greek crisis or a Portuguese or an Irish or a peripheral. It's a crisis which is hitting the entire Eurozone. It has the potential of destabilizing the euro. It has the potential, if the euro is destabilized, of destabilizing the European Union as such. So the consequences, if the situation gets out of control, is not longer manageable, would be horrendous. So it's not an issue of Greece or Germany. And we've seen that this is a collective interdependence on a level which is so high that we cannot, disregard what is happening in one or the other country. So it's not a German or a Greek or an Irish or a Portuguese issue. This is an EU or a European issue.
Well, the attention has been taken off Greece in the last few days. And just this morning, an economist from Citibank said that in the next few weeks or days or months, it could be Spain or Italy that could default if the ECB doesn't step in. Do you agree with that?
Spain, Italy are targets, but we're also seeing spreads increasing for other countries who up till now seem to be safe havens. Belgium, Austria. We see France being under pressure, even Finland being under pressure. It seems that Germany and Luxembourg are the ones who are exempted from all that. So there's pressure all over the system. It's no longer only in the peripheries, and it's not even no longer only with regard to Italy. But the problem, especially with the bigger countries, Italy, Spain, is that the crisis recipe, which hopefully will work with respect to Ireland, Portugal, and hopefully also with respect to Greece, wouldn't work for the case of Italy, because of its size, because of its importance as an economic power, the third strongest power in the European Union. So you will have to find out other recipes, and it's probably the case that the ECB is the key. The way in which you engage the ECB, because the liquidity net which you now have in the framework of the current rescue mechanisms, even if they reach by leveraging $1 billion, would not be big enough. So we're talking about other kind of solutions which are far beyond the crisis recipe which we've seen up till now.
And how do you feel about technocrats taking over vulnerable Eurozone members?
Well, I think what it shows on the political level is that this is a crisis of confidence. So you don't any longer have confidence in the political elites of the country to do the things which need to be done in severe situations. But by the way, there's a strong difference between the Greek and the Italian government. The Greek government is a government which is led by technocrats, but is supported by the three major parties, also being included with ministers, whereas the Italian new government led by Prime Minister Monti is a government of technocrats. It only includes technocrats. So it will be interesting to see which of the two models works better.
And Trichet, Jean-Claude Trichet, the former head of the ECB, he promised on many occasions, like many Eurozone leaders did, that no Eurozone country would ever go bankrupt. But now we're hearing a lot of words from politicians and from Eurozone leaders, but we're losing faith, aren't we, in what they say? And what do you think of that? How can they rebuild their confidence and trust in European citizens?
That is going to be a process which will take a long time. There is no one silver bullet, no one thing which you can do and then that would create trust. This is something which you have to regain, and it will not take only weeks or months, it will take years. And by the way, we do not even know what some of the collateral damage of this crisis will be, the political, the social. So things beyond the financial and the economic, which a lot of that we already see in day-to-day events. But there will be collateral damage of this crisis, which will show itself not immediately, but it will show itself over time. So there are a lot of things which Europe and the European Union and the member states will have to be dealing with, even if, and that's a big if, we overcome the current euro crisis.
So just to finish up there, your long-term vision for Europe?
I think that to have a long-term vision these days is enormously difficult because we just don't know what will happen. I think nobody can predict what will happen. In the past, we've seen that the EU follows a certain iron law, and the iron law is that the EU always emerges stronger after a crisis. That started from the beginning. From the 1950s, we had that iron law proving itself. But this time around, we cannot be sure that it will prove itself because of the gravity of the crisis, because we are being judged not only by ourselves and our citizens, but also by the markets. So it's another player which is interfering in this political game, which is new. And our political DNA of the EU is such that we are complicated. We're having problems in reaching compromises. So it's very difficult to give a prognosis. It can go in both ways. It can go in the way towards whatever it will look like in the end, fiscal or political union. We do not know the details. But there is also the danger that we will hit massively the wall. And the consequences of that, we can't even imagine, both on the national and the European level.
Okay, let's leave it there on that very uncertain note. Janis, Senior Policy Analyst from the European Policy Centre, thanks very much for having a coffee with the EUobserver. And let us know what you think, and leave a comment under this video or write us an email at video@EUobserver.com.